Welcome to the Straight Red Card, and today Brett and I are going to, Brett, we actually need some sort of intro button that goes, "Welcome to the Straight Red Card, or something like that, because people are probably bored. But then again, we just jumped to the topics, so maybe.
I like our little intro.
All right.
It's the little intro, dun 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 dun.
Oh,
and then, us be like, hey, welcome to the Straight Red, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I guess as long as it fades right in, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, speaking of fading right into something, we had two games last night that were, I think, pretty spectacular. We had LA versus Toronto, and then we had Seattle versus Santos in the CONCACAF Champions League. And, the thing that really stood out to me, number one, and I found this to be particularly encouraging, those two games, that was the best I have ever seen MLS clubs play and look in a preseason. What to them is really a preseason game. We have always, for the most part, looked like total crap at the beginning of the season playing in the CL, or just, basically the preseason games have always been horrible to watch. I think this shows something. Not only are we prepping better, I think the teams are just better, because that LA-Toronto game, that had some first-class players in it, and it was well played. And then the Seattle-Santos game, man, Seattle's possession was about 1,000 times better than I've ever seen it. It was awesome.
Well, and I know over the preseason for LA, I know the Bruce was giving less and less playing time to his regulars. And, during the preseason, there were a lot of games where they were getting smoked by, Portland and various other teams. And, the Bruce was just like, you know what? It's preseason. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's giving time to other players that are either, bench players or players that are trying to fight for a spot. But I don't know. I see this as maybe MLS taking a step in the direction as far as knowing how to prepare for the preseason, how to get ready for the season as a whole. Because I've seen a couple games this preseason, and a lot of teams are looking sharp, although they're trying out new players. So there is still that whole oh, good Lord, aspect behind some of the play. But no, I agree. I didn't get to see the LA Toronto game. I saw the highlights. I had some indoor games yesterday during that time frame.
Excuses.
And I caught the second half of the Seattle Santos game.
Yeah.
I really wish it was on ESPN or at least ESPN3. Instead, I had to watch it on a stream and catch the last half of the game.
Yeah.
But
it was well played. I mean, you have to say that actually Santos in many ways looked more out of shape and winded. Actually, some of their players looked a little fat. I hate to say that, but I just think there's more emphasis right now on staying completely fit in the MLS. You have to be so, because we depend on that physicality, whereas it's more finesse in the Mexican league. And I think our players are just physically stronger. And then you had, of course, Keane and Donovan. Both those guys stayed in shape, obviously, because they were over in Europe. But I really like, number one, the fact that this is the first time I can remember watching us play, or an MLS teams play, this time of the season in the Champions League, and not look like total garbage. I was actually beyond it not looking like garbage. It looked great. Seattle looked fabulous. LA, they deserved to have won that game. It ended tied, but I mean, they played very well too. And the other thing, the crowds for that LA-Toronto game were crazy. They were ruckus. 40, you said what, 42,000?
42, that's what they're reporting. And obviously just watching the highlights, I really hate the streamers.
Yeah, so does Don Garber.
It was fine the first season or two. Even that, it was sort of like, yeah, all right. Then after that, it gets so annoying to have to deal with and watch. And in all honesty, while people are throwing the streamers, anybody could chuck anything.
Yeah, and they did.
Yeah,
they threw a beer can at Beckham.
It's time to end that, in my opinion. I think it's pointless, and it looks bad.
Did you see Beckham pick up that beer can in the highlights and go, hey,
No.
he walked over, started walking towards the ref. Look at this beer can. Somebody threw a beer can at me. Oh, it was right at the end of the game before the cross that Donovan put away.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Now, the great thing that was also fun to watch in the Seattle Santos game was the fact that Herculez Gomez and Schmid had this big, thing that Herculez made a deal out of him that he later apologized for, that, Schmid basically told Gomez he didn't really see that Gomez had much of a career in soccer. And Gomez was going to show him. Well, Gomez did show him because he scored, right?
Absolute stellar goal, too.
It was awesome. Now,
it was a beautiful goal.
What else does Gomez need to do? A backflip? What does he need to do at this point to be called up to the United States national team?
And I brought this up to you yesterday. It surprises me that he hasn't been called up. It's not the fact that he's playing in an inferior league. Obviously, we've had plenty of our Mexican Americans who are playing in the Mexican league be called up relatively consistently under Klinsmann. Name another striker outside of Josie that really has warranted a call up over Herculez Gomez. I guess Buttle was his team's leading goal scorer until he was let go because of financial reasons. But outside of that, we had Terrence Boyd, who we've given a look at. We've had Agudelo, who was struggling to consistently find playing time at New York. Bunbury, who wasn't in the world's best of form towards the end of, or he wasn't in the best form all of last season. Here's a guy who's consistently scoring.
Yeah.
He's scoring nice goals, clinical goals too. Put him in front of the goal.
Is he getting too old? Maybe. Is that the theory?
We're calling up Buttle.
Yeah, that's true.
Buttle's what? He's already 32.
I'm calling Gomez before I call it Buttle.
Oh,
no offense.
I would call both up. I like them both. We've got the space. We're only calling up really one true striker, and then maybe some. We're lumping Donovan and Dempsey up there with him.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from
some real backups,
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Klinsmann specifically why. We hear him talk about, specifically why this player isn't being called right now, i.e. Question, when he wasn't included. We heard him talk about, where Mix is, Discarud is on the call-up, and why he's not being called up right now. But we don't hear anything about Herculez Gomez. If there's one position where we could actually use somebody who's got sort of the Gary Lineker disease, which means he can't help it. He just scores. He's in the right spot at the right time. And here is a guy who is, in fact, kind of doing that on a regular basis in Mexico, and he can't even get a sniff from Klinsmann. It's time to end that, and I think we're going to see that end. I think he's earned it.
Yeah, talking about other talented players from last night's match.
Yeah.
I thought Alonso and Hurtado had wonderful second halves because I didn't get to watch the first half.
Yep.
They had, as far as what I saw, they were absolute beasts.
Yeah.
I was thinking at one point where I pointed out that I really hope that Hurtado gets back up from the injury he had.
Yeah, he was fabulous. He was great. He was a rock all night. And then you're right, so right about Alonso. Of course, it's no surprise to anybody that's been watching him play over the last number of seasons. He's just been fabulous. And, Cuba could really use him right now. But unfortunately, he's not going to be playing for anybody's national team as far as I can tell anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have one other point from that second half was, don't you think Sanchez was quite the liability? For Santos? Man.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Bonacondulo. He would make some nice saves, but then he'd throw out some real bonehead plays by literally coming all the way over to the sideline to try to kick the ball out, and then having to chase back while they cross it with no goalie in the box. Fortunately for Santos, there was no other Sounders player in that play.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a wide open goal.
Yep. Well,
there's just some real dumb plays, and I'm just like, man, he's a great goalie, but he has some real stupid plays.
Yeah, it was very Hondulish in some ways, and then there, of course, been a history of other goalkeepers who have the same problem, where they want to get a little too involved what's going on, and usually it'll come back eventually and bite you in the ass. That's for sure. Well, speaking of beer cans being thrown at Beckham, I know you don't watch commercials, but one of the commercials that came up recently, this is kind of our little thing here, is have you seen, I'm just hoping you've seen, the GE commercial where they say, "We make the power that makes the beer." Oh, have you seen that?
I haven't.
Oh,
no, I haven't.
you got it. There's got to be some way we can get you to watch some of these commercials because they say, and then a guy comes up and says, "So without you, we wouldn't have beer."
I find that kind of funny because over the past 4 or 5 days on Netflix, I've been watching all these documentaries on beer and breweries and everything, the history of breweries and history of beer and all sorts of stuff, and it just sort of caught me off guard when you're like, "Without you, we wouldn't have beer."
Yeah, exactly.
So they have evidence proving that there's been beer since 9,000 BC.
That's correct, 9,500 BC, right?
So, I obviously meant as a joke, but still,
yeah.
Not even close to being factual, man. You just make us look stupid.
But a lot of people are going to believe that crap. But hello, we were making beer before electricity. I just want people to know, even if all the power goes out, we can still figure out a way to make beer. Oh, boy. Another short announcement is that I guess we got this as a note on YouTube from one of our people that watch it. We did break. We are now, I guess, 500,000 views on YouTube. Well, that's pretty cool. It's not,
got to specify that. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's just on YouTube. Obviously,
a number of other sites, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, total views, I think we're above, we're probably nearing 3 million now. But it's nice to know because we don't ever put a link out really directly to the YouTube stuff. So it's good to see people are actually, and we do read it and we do keep up with it. And I think, Brett, you occasionally post there and so do I.
Comment every now and then.
Yeah.
What I find funny is whenever I Google like the title of a show or something like that, just to see, you have the YouTube link on there, you have the Big Soccer link on there. But then it's fun to look at all these random sites.
Oh, my God. Yeah, there's some.
Never heard of. Never seen before, and yet our show's on there.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I have no idea what those sites are, and I don't know how they decide they're going to put us on their website, but they do, and I don't really have any problem with it at this point.